Hello, Allison. You are the first person here. Dan, hello. Thank you guys for joining me today. Hello, Stephen. Hillary. I'm glad you guys are with me today. All right, I hope you got your questions ready. I thought I would just, give you guys time to figure out what you wanted to talk about today. I thought maybe I would pick up where I left off last time and talk a little bit about uh, energy work and how the three basically when you're learning how to use magic practically, what you're doing can be broken down into uh, essentially grounding, shielding, and oh, somebody's got a good topic already: relationships. You know what? Actually, I'm going to jump right into that. I'm going to stop talking about what I was talking about, and if you guys want to hear me go back to that later, feel free to remind me. But I'm just going to talk. I'm going to start off. This is your time. This is all about talking about what you guys want to talk about. I already know everything that I have to say. Uh, Let me see. What are you talking about, Kel? Okay, guys. So somebody asked about relationships. Relationships can be the or one of the most potent tools that we have for growth and development. And they can also be one of the absolute biggest traps for feeding the ego that we can fall into. Uh, Hold on, I'm gonna stop the. I'm trying to figure out how I can stop the comments without. Let me see. Okay, guys, I am not sure how to do this. I'm gonna have to figure out how to stop the comments from scrolling. And if I try to do that, normally I hold it with my finger because they go nonstop. And if I hold them with my finger, I can keep them from scrolling by. But I can't do that right now without covering the what do you call it, the lens thing. All right, I'm just going to try it anyway. Back to the relationship thing. What was I thinking of before that? Relationships, how they can be what really one of the things we lose track of when we're talking about relationships, when we're working on relationships, when we're getting into relationships. Uh, all relationships, no matter what they are, whether it's like a romantic relationship, whether it's a family relationship, whether it's a friendship, whatever it is, um, essentially the reason that they exist is vehicles to help us learn and grow. I mean, keep in mind, when we develop as human beings in this world, the number one way that we take in life experience is through our relationships with other people. It's the number one thing that leads to who we are. Most of our life is about our relationships with other people. We lose track of the fact that these relationships are supposed to be vehicles where we both help each other, or where we all help each other, depending on what the relationship is. Like if it's a relationship with your family or what have you. Anything beyond that, and you are in grave, grave danger of turning relationships into a means to feed the ego. Ego is a very insidious thing. Ego likes to disguise itself as love, but usually it's kind of the what's this? Do you have any recommendations for a note-taking, organizing systems for study? Um, does that? Are you following me so far? Does this make sense? Do you see what I'm talking about? Uh, Anything that ego takes part in will not last. Nothing that ego does will last. Ego is inherently poisonous. Ego destroys anything that it finds its way into. Um, we tend to, with relationships, a lot of times try to build identities for ourselves. And they're just that they're illusion. They're not who we are. You are not someone's son. You are not someone's daughter. You are not someone's mother. You are not someone's father. Those are roles that you may feel in your life to various people, but that is not who or what you are. The point of a relationship is so that we help each other remember what and who we are. Anything else is a misuse. That doesn't mean that that you can't have stuff like love. Of course you can. The reason that we're here is to love and be loved. Let me see. Somebody said, since I've been practicing magic, I feel sometimes like I'm detached from my body. Is this normal? I think in psychology it's called dissociation. The thing is, there's almost no such thing as normal, really. There's a consensus. Someone you had, can you elaborate on that? You guys are asking so many good things. I'm kind of getting distracted. Because there's a lot of stuff I want to talk about here. Somebody says, you mentioned in one of your videos taking back energy from someone who had tried to harm you. Can you elaborate on that? What they're talking about is, one time I was talking about how the Attorney General in my case had basically built an entire career, an entire life for himself uh, out of my energy, out of lying on me, out of trying to murder me, out of sentencing me to death. He had built a political career for himself out of my literal life force. So I started doing this exercise when I was in prison where, I've talked about in the past how it's kind of pointless and counterproductive and everything else to do what people call curses, which is where you're basically hurtling negatively charged, loaded energy at somebody. And how people who, like Aleister Crowley and McGregor Mathers, even when they were in the midst of what they called a psychic war, they still weren't doing that. Essentially what they were doing is drawing energy from one another. That's the same thing I did to the Attorney General in my case. When I first started learning how to do things like astral projection, and keep in mind, astral projection is almost nothing in magic is what it has been portrayed as in popular culture. When you're talking about astral projection in popular culture, they tend to portray it as it's almost like you raise up out of your body and you're completely unconscious of your body and it's a separate thing from you and you're flying through the air almost like Superman. And it feels just like you've got a physical body. None of that is even remotely what it's like. Whenever you first start learning, the first thing you realize is that your consciousness is everywhere. It is in all things. When you are doing what we call astral projecting, essentially what you're doing is shifting the focal point of your consciousness from one place to another. And we have been sort of trained our entire lives to think this is where our consciousness is. It's in this body. It's locked in here. Astral projection is basically learning that that's not true. We're not just confined to this. We've just been trained. This is almost like an antenna. Our consciousness can project more strongly through our physical body than it can anywhere else. But that doesn't mean it isn't other places. When you're doing astral projection, basically what you're doing is shifting the focal point of your consciousness from your body to someone else. Or somewhere else. I'm sorry, getting distracted by the comments again. So essentially what I started doing was by siphoning off my life energy, the Attorney General had created energetic connections from him to me. He was unconscious of this. He wasn't aware that he was doing this. But whenever you think about someone a lot, whenever you have strong feelings about someone, you are forming energetic links. So I mean, he had built his entire life off of my life force. So what I started to do was to draw it back, to pull it away from him. I decided at one point, it was kind of this feeling of, I am going to take back every single thing that you took from me. I want everything you took from me back. And I started to draw as hard as I could all of that energy back to myself. And when I did that, what I would picture, what I would visualize is kind of like his aura. I would pull so hard that it would crumple in around him, almost like, you know, when you're a little kid and you're drinking those juice boxes through a straw and you suck on it really hard and the box kind of caves in on itself. That's what I would do to pull the energy back to me. I started doing that, and within a few months, his career had basically completely collapsed around him. He had gotten caught up in a lot of scandals. His family life fell apart. He lost his job as the attorney general. And I got out of prison. Energy that, let me see, I want to read you guys questions real quick. Oh, that's a good one, Riley Howell. Riley says, how would you specify pulling your energy back and not take in any unwanted energy from him? That is a really, really good question, and that leads to a lot of different techniques in magic. You have to consciously make the effort to, whenever you take in someone else's energy, you're also taking in their impurities. You know, their thoughts, their emotions, all of that kind of stuff taints the energy. You know, if someone is a very angry person or if someone is a very hateful person, they're going to have a different energy imprint than someone who is a loving or kind or generous person. You know, the guy that I was trying to take my energy back from was not by any stretch of the imagination a great guy. You know, this was someone who had done a lot of really dark stuff, including trying to murder me. You have to it can be done in a few ways. Number one is you consciously make the decision not to pull those impurities through. In magic, sometimes they call it either you cycle them out or you ground them. This is one of the things that grounding is good for, is you can ground all of those impurities out of energy before you start to consume it. So this is why, you know, when I was talking last week, I started talking about shielding. How whenever you're shielding, you create an egg-shaped dome of energy around yourself that other energy from outside can't penetrate into. This isn't always exactly what you want. You know, you want to be able to take energy in, number one, because you want energy, fresh energy constantly moving through your energy system. But also, it's how we interact with the world. You know, if you can't receive energy from outside, then you can't read energy from outside. You can't know anything about the outside world. So a lot of times you may want to shield yourself, but only from specific kinds of energy. You do this the same way you're doing the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram, where whenever you inhale, you're filling the earth up with light beneath your feet. And you know how you draw this line of white light around the room? You shield yourself in the same way. So for example, say I want to create a shield that only beneficial, loving energy can get through, then I hold that conscious intent in my head that all energy except stuff that's going to be beneficial to me, energy that is tinged with love, is going to be able to penetrate the shield. So for me, the way I do that is I equate love with the sphere of Netzach on the tree, which it corresponds to the planet Venus. Well, the colors that correspond to Netzach and Venus are pink and green. Pink and like a really light, I always think of it as kind of seafoam green. That's what I see in my head, the image. You create a shield, you draw a line, inhale and fill the earth up with light, and draw a line around yourself. Turn in a circle, use the sword mudra, and turn in a circle, and about waist or chest high, you draw a line of, say, pink light around you. And you think, may only beneficial, positive, loving energies penetrate this shield. So you're standing there in the middle of this circle that you've drawn around yourself. You then reach out with both hands and sort of hook that circle, and you stretch it. You close it above your head like a dome. And then you do it again. You put your hands out to your side and you close it beneath your feet like a dome so that you are uh, inside of a pink egg of light. And energy is going to do what you intend for it to do. So since you have programmed it for only love to come through, that's what's going to come through. You're still going to get out the harmful stuff. Well, the same way, you could do the same thing, for example, um, whenever you pull energy from something or someone or a place or whatever it is into your system, you practice a grounding technique to ground out any impurities that you might pull in with it. And you visualize the impurities as gray smoke. So you could do it through, for example, blocking energy out to begin with through the power of your intention and your will, or you could pull all energy in and then ground out anything that was harmful, negative, impure, whatever. That's usually what I would do. I would usually, I do grounding a lot. I think it is one of the most powerful and useful tools in all of magic because you can ground out so many different kinds of energies. It works on so many different levels, like not only energetic, like say for example, you go to work one day and you get really pissed off at something someone there says to you, you can ground out that anger. You know how normally a lot of people, if they get angry at something, they'll go find themselves going back and thinking about it and reliving it and having those energy flashes over and over for like several days afterwards. If you ground, like it's the second, use your emotions as an alarm clock. You know, we are unconscious a lot of times. Keep a little bit of your attention on your emotions at all times and sort of feel, am I feeling angry? Am I feeling scared? Am I feeling happy? Am I, excited? Whatever it is, kind of keep a little bit of your attention on your emotions at all times. What this does is you will eventually fall into this pattern of, sometimes, like say you're talking about anger in the beginning, you may be angry for 10 minutes before you realize, oh, I've slipped into this angry kind of thinking again all the time. A few weeks down the road, you realize 5 minutes into it. A few weeks down the road, you start to realize the second you're getting angry. The sooner you can realize it, the sooner you can mitigate the damage, because immediately let that emotion be an alarm clock to do grounding and pull it out of you. Pull that anger out of you. Pull that sadness out of you. Pull that depression out of you. Whatever it is you're trying to ground out that you're feeling, you envision it being pulled out of you. You'll find that whatever it is will be gone really, really quickly, like sometimes in a matter of seconds, if not, minutes. But it also works in ways like, I forgot what I was talking about. What were we just talking about? The grounding and the different ways it works. Is it like mindfulness or emotion can be a tool rather than a version? What were we talking about? Oh, grounding out energy. Grounding out energy and, the emotions and the different levels it works on. Okay, you can also do things like ground out sickness. There were times, the way that I learned how powerful this technique is, when I was in prison, I had a lot of pain in my teeth. I'd been beaten really bad several times, and they had caused a lot of physical damage. At one point, they beat me so bad that I started to piss blood. I thought I was going to die in there. There's almost no medical care. There's no dental care, nothing. I mean, they messed me up bad more than once. One of the things that was damaged were my teeth from being hit in the face. Well, in prison, they don't do root canals or caps or crowns or any of that kind of stuff. Your choices are live in pain or let them pull your teeth out. I didn't want to try to live in there without teeth. I mean, it's bad enough living in there if you're healthy, much less when you can't even eat anymore. So I started doing magic to stop the pain in my teeth because it was horrendous. I mean, I reached a point at one time where it was like I couldn't even think anymore. I felt like I was dying just because it sucked all the life out of me. When you're in that much pain all the time, it really, really depletes you in every way you can imagine. You've barely got anything left to even deal with whatever comes at you in life anymore because you're putting everything you've got into just getting through another day in this pain. Uh, so I started doing magic to heal me from the pain. And I would do it in a bunch of different ways, and I did it, I was in so much pain that it was one of the things that pushed me to really learn a lot about magic. So I would do things like, for example, take a glass of water and hold it in my hands, breathe energy into the tip rest center, and when you exhale, you let it come down your arms, out your hands, and into the glass of water. And I would see it just fill up with gold light over and over and over, and then drink it and see my either, if I'm trying to heal something in my body, I see my body being filled up with light, I see my aura being filled up with light, or sometimes I just do it on my teeth if I only want to do it on one part of my body. Every time I take a drink, I see the gold light filling up my teeth. Well, that worked amazingly well at first. I would do that. Sometimes, I would do it just by putting my hands across my mouth. Inhale, exhale, and just let it come through my hands and into my mouth. Um, so I did it in a bunch of different ways, like basically putting chi into my teeth to try to make them stop hurting. And what happened in the beginning is when I would do this, they would stop hurting for uh, like a month straight. I would do this and I wouldn't have any trouble at all for a month. And it was amazing. When you do magic for something like that and you see it have a really intense physical effect, I mean, you experience the fact that, oh my God, I just did this and it's not hurting anymore. You It doesn't even occur to you after that to have doubt. You just automatically start to rely on this because you see the effects it can have on you. But what happened is, in the beginning it would work for a month, and then I would have to do it and it would only work for 3 weeks, and then it would only work for 2 weeks. And each time that, the shorter amount of time that it would last, I would have to put more and more energy into getting the same results for shorter amounts of time. Like, by the I reached a point where I had to do it almost nonstop. I had to put energy into my teeth almost non-stop, and the second I stopped doing it, they would immediately start hurting again. And that took place over about a period of a year. Uh, and I couldn't figure out what was going on. Why did it work so well in the beginning and then just suddenly stop working at all? Uh, and then one night, it was like a light bulb just went off. And I realized, as above, so below, as within, so without. You can't just inhale forever. You eventually have to exhale. You can't just drink water forever. You eventually have to pee. Well, I had been taking in all of this energy. Uh, yes, that's a very good thing, Mr. Williams. Mr. Williams says, see if I can find the comment again. Yeah, didn't you go back in time and correct your teeth by shielding them in the past? That's a really good thing I want to talk about too. We think about when we're manifesting things, we always think we can manifest in the future. We don't realize there's no such thing as time. The future is no more real than the past is. You can manifest something in the past just as easily as you can manifest something in the future. And one of the ways that you do this, I'll give you an example about manifesting something in the past. I did this to help heal myself too. But take a picture of yourself when you were really young, like when you were a child, and put that on the middle of your altar. And you do whatever ritual you're going to do around it. You do, a pentagram invoking ritual where you can invoke fire, or you do a hexagram invoking ritual where you invoke the sun or Mercury or whatever it is. But you're doing it, whatever energy to you symbolizes the intent of making yourself a better magician. That's the invocation that you do. And then you put it all into the picture of you as a child. What you're doing is sending the energy backwards to yourself in the flow of time to increase your magical ability. That's the intent you have. Increase my magical ability from this time period so that now I will be more magically proficient. What that does, and I've done that too, what that does, it will not increase how much you know. It doesn't give you any more knowledge of magic. What it does is increases your ability to channel energy, the amount of energy that you can channel. It will be as if you've been pushing bigger amounts of energy for longer periods of time. And there's no limit to how many times you can do that. That's one of those topics that there's a lot in that goes along with that. But one thing I wanted to tell you guys about today too is this is going to be a very, very busy week for me, just because Angels and Archangels is getting ready to come out. It's going to come out next week. So this week is when I am recording all of the podcasts and interviews and stuff like that to help promote it. Yes, July 14th. Angels and Archangels will be out on July 14th. So I won't be able to be on here as much this week as I wanted to be. I wanted to be on here even more last week. But it started last week, a lot of the interviews and stuff. I'm going to be on here as much as I can, but bear with me this week. Absent a lot. I'm going to, yes, we froze. Okay, I'm going to and see what other questions we have here. How hard is it to manifest an abstract energy like chi into something physical like a small flame or water? Have you done something like this? Someone's asking about using energy to manifest something like, literal fire or water. And that's not really what we're doing when we're doing this kind of work. Magic takes the path of least resistance. You're not going to be able to make fire like come out of your fingertips or anything like that, because it's not a thing that can normally physically happen. So you would have to overcome like laws of physics and everything else. When I say magic takes the path of least resistance, I mean that when you do when you do magic for something, the example I always give in classes is it's not like you're going to do magic for money and suddenly wake up and there's going to be a shoebox full of money at the foot of your bed. It's more like you do magic for money and you get a phone call from a friend one day who says, I'm working on this project and there's this one aspect of it that I thought you would be really great to take on. Would you be interested in this? And it pays this amount of money, and it ends up being exactly the amount of money that you needed. Things like that. Magic follows the path of least resistance. So we're not trying to do things like, physically create fire or water or anything else. You would be really, really handicapping yourself if you were to try to do something like that. And probably, almost certainly bringing about the failure of the ritual just because you're trying to do something that's so beyond. Do you personally practice scrying? Can you go more in depth about this, please? I don't really do scrying anymore. No. Scrying is one of those, all of those things that you learn like that in the very beginning practices, whether it's scrying or whatever it is, they're kind of like training wheels. Even tarot, things like tarot, they're training wheels to get you started, to teach you how to use your intuition, how to use your psychic perception. And by psychic perception, I mean your ability to perceive and manipulate energies. You reach a point where you start doing those things automatically, almost as like second nature, because you get so used to exercising those faculties that you don't have to even go through, a big special ritual anymore. Let me see what other folks are asking. How do you know the difference between astral projection and having a really strong creative imagination? That's a good question, and the answer is, does it work? Uh, if Crowley said, "Let success be thy proof." You know, don't argue with people, don't try to convince people, don't even try to convince yourself. Look at, did it work or did it not? What were you doing magic for when you were practicing astral projection? And did it come to pass? You know, for example, you know, I guess a lot of people explore in the beginning whenever they're doing astral projection, like they just test things out, see what works, what, you know, kind of get a feel for it. But for the most part, you know, it's not a terribly exciting thing to do. You don't have a physical body. You know, when you're astral projecting, uh, we are so used to this is why everybody and everything wants to be in this realm, in the physical realm, because this is the only place where you can touch things, where you can taste things, where you can smell things. This is the only level of reality where we have physical senses. That's why everybody wants to be born into this realm, because we want to experience all of these physical sensations. uh, Whenever you're astral projecting, you don't have any of those things. You don't have nerve endings to experience touch. You don't have taste buds for taste. Uh, Everything you are doing is working on the energetic plane of reality. I forgot the question. What was the question? Oh, so it's not a thing that you spend a lot of time doing, unless you have a reason for doing it. You know, once you're proficient at it. And you can do magic on the astral without using your body. Um, let's see. Oh, what are some things we can do magic for if we are otherwise happy where we are in life right now? That may be one of the best questions anyone has asked so far, because that's when you're supposed to be doing the most magic, and you do magic then for completion of the great work. You either do magic, say, that, you know, if I don't have any particular pressing need in my day, I do magic for spiritual sustenance, to grow consciously, to expand my consciousness. If I don't have a need for anything, what I do is I'll do magic and say, let this power, blessings, and favor descend upon me so that I complete the great work within this lifetime. And I do magic to complete the great work. Or I'll say, may all this power, blessings, and favor descend upon me so that, my brain went blank. May all of this power, blessings, and favor descend upon me in order to protect, illuminate, and guide me on my journey through life and on the practice of high magic. So if you don't have something that you specifically need in your life, you do magic to complete the great work, for guidance, for protection, for illumination, for wisdom, all of those kinds of things. That's what I try to do most of my magic for, to be quite honest. That's what I call the 90-10 rule. Here's the thing. Somebody asked also about doing magic to manifest things. I want to address this real quick. There is nothing wrong with manifesting things. We live in a culture where people have been made to feel sort of guilty for wanting things. You know, like you should never do magic to get a nice house for your family to live in, or you should never do magic to get the job that you want. You know, people think you shouldn't do magic to obtain spiritual or material things because it's somehow or another sinful or evil or something like that. Nothing could be further from the truth. I mean, if you had a kid, wouldn't you want your kid to have the best? Wouldn't you want your kid to be happy, to have what they needed, to have what they wanted, as long as it was beneficial and helpful for them? That's how the universe feels about you. You know, you are a child of the source that created the universe, and it wants the best for you that you can possibly have. It wants you to grow. It wants you to learn. And it is really, really hard to focus on things like doing magic for spiritual sustenance whenever you're going to bed hungry at night, or whenever you're living in prison in fear of your life, that these people are going to kill you, whatever it is. There is nothing, you know, every level of reality is divine. everything has divinity in it, not just some of it, not part of it, not most of it. Every level of reality has divinity within it, including the physical. There is no aspect of reality that's more holy than any other. There is nothing inherently wrong with the physical level of reality. There's nothing wrong with enjoying it. There's nothing wrong with experiencing things or having things. Um, but what I try to do is follow the 90-10 rule, because if all of your spiritual practice is about nothing but manifesting things, you're eventually going to reach a point where you think, is this it? Is this all there is to life? Is this what it's all about? Okay, I've learned how to manifest stuff. I reached a point at one time where I thought, I'm reaching a stage where I can manifest nearly anything. Like as soon as I start doing magic, it almost automatically manifests. But is that all there is? Is that what this is all leading up to? Just being able to manifest something, make some change occur in the physical world, and you start to feel like your spiritual life is pointless, shallow, or meaningless in some way. Um, why is the Oh, somebody says, I'm going to get back to that because that's a really good question. Um, Somebody said, if every part of reality has divinity, why is the definition of material the opposite of divine? Uh, Before I answer that, though, I want to finish what we were just talking about. What were we talking about? Let me remember. We were talking about physical reality, manifesting things. Oh, the 90-10 rule. I usually do 90% of my magic for spiritual sustenance, for growth, for completion of the great work, for whatever it is, attaining the knowledge and conversation of your holy guardian angel. If for most people, that's what you need to focus on. Like in the second order, once you've learned all of these rituals that you can do and use to manifest things, my brain went blank. I was just reading comments again. Oh, you then take in the second order, you take everything that you learned in the first order, like how to do these rituals, how to use them for manifestation purposes, whatever it is. You take everything you learned, and then in the second order, you apply it towards attaining the knowledge and conversation of the holy guardian angel. So that's another thing you do magic for, to may this power, blessings, and favor descend so that I attain the knowledge and conversation of the holy guardian angel. May it come about in a way which brings harm to none and is for the good of all, and in no way let this reverse or bring upon me any curse. Usually that's how I would word that. So the HCA ritual, that's one thing you can use magic for. Another thing. Somebody said, why is the opposite of divinity the material realm? Technically, it's not. Technically, when you reach the highest levels of reality, there is nothing but divinity. There is no opposite of divinity, just because divinity is all things. The material world, the way it's looked at more in magic, to use the tree of life diagram, the tree of life is this diagram that has 10 different spheres on it, and the very bottom sphere represents non-duality. Yes. The very bottom sphere on the tree of life, Malkuth, represents the physical world. We say in magic that the physical world is the vessel. It is the pot. It is the container for all of those other higher energies to come down into. This is where they land. This is where they eventually manifest at, in the physical world. There's nothing wrong at all with the physical world. Is this related to the union of opposites? That's what magic is eventually. The highest levels of magic is all about the union of opposites, whether it be heaven and hell, whether it be divinity and the material world, whether it be masculine and feminine, whatever it is, you reconcile those opposites. That is the only way you achieve non-duality. Is alchemy, in a sense, magic, just in a more scientific avenue? Magic spelled with a K, people, here's the thing about magic spelled with a K also, is now you see it everywhere. You see it in witchcraft and Wicca, you see it in, it is all over the place. And most people, if you ask them why is there a K at the end of it, people will say it's to differentiate it from sleight of hand, pulling rabbits out of hats, or sawing women in half, or I don't know, making birds fly out of your sleeve, whatever it is. Magic with a K is to differentiate it from sleight of hand, from stage prestidigitation. While that is true, it is not the entirety of the answer. Magic spelled with a K is astrotheurgy. The K began being, it was Crowley that started putting the K at the end of it. And he says plainly and blatantly throughout his work, on more than one occasion, that what he was trying to do was revive the Sumerian tradition of magic. So magic with a K goes all the way back to ancient Sumer in Mesopotamia. That's what magic with a K is. It's astrotheurgy. It's not alchemy. Alchemy is an entire separate discipline and field of study in and of itself. Now, you had people in ancient Mesopotamia that did practice various alchemical techniques, like distilling. We know that distilling goes all the way back to Babylon, that people used to distill things and make essential oils and hydrosols and stuff in Babylon. However, alchemy was something that gradually over time sort of morphed. You can get to the core of what alchemy is by dissecting the word alchemy itself. Alchemy is it comes from alchemet, meaning of the black land. Like people in Egypt, they did not call their land Egypt. They called it Kemet, which means black. And they were referring to the color of the soil, how dark the soil was along the Nile River. Just because it was so fertile, it was black. So when you were talking about magic from the black land, or alchemy, you're talking about a branch of an esoteric branch of study that goes all the way back to ancient Egypt. Alchemy and astrotheurgy can be used together. As a matter of fact, using them together is more powerful than using one or the other on their own. But they don't have to be used together. They are entirely separate things. I have a friend who he would understand most of what I'm talking about, almost everything I'm talking about. We have followed a very similar path of development. However, he would not consider himself a magician at all. If you ask him what he was, he would answer an alchemist, because to him, it's a very, very different discipline. Let me look through the questions you guys have sent. Somebody said, Christopher said, I've been doing a deep dive into research into Tibet. Found out the shamanistic / magic native tradition of Bon started 13,000 in Iran as well. It kind of blew my mind. Yeah, that's most people, when they think of Tibetan Buddhism, what Tibetan Buddhism is kind of a combination of two different spiritual traditions. One is the Buddhism from that moved into the area that was traditionally settled by practitioners of what was called Bon, B-O-N, in ancient Tibet. Bon was Eastern ceremonial magic. This is why Tibetan Buddhism looks so much different from other forms of Buddhism. You have a lot more ceremonial and religious or ritual aspects to Tibetan Buddhism than you do to something like Zen. Somebody said music is magic. It is. But it's also becoming a kind of magic that most people don't know how to use anymore. Everything has a correspondence. The guy that I was talking about that's an alchemist, he's also a musician. He's a professional musician. And, he went really deep into the study of things like what musical notes correspond to which spheres on the tree of life. So if you are trying to create a piece of music to manifest something, or to embody a particular kind of energy, you use notes and themes and everything else based on that sphere on the tree of life. So, for example, if you are trying to create music that is the embodiment of love or has love in it, you would pick your notes and everything else based upon Netzach. Somebody asked me one time about music I listen to during ritual, and it's really all over the map. Really, it is. I mean, I will listen to anything from Bing Crosby and Frank Sinatra to really anything. Could be anything. But you can also add to the power of your rituals um, by the music you play. So, for example, you can go on YouTube and find videos of the sound the planets make, and they're made by NASA, I think. Like, for example, you go onto YouTube and you can look up the sound that the planet of Venus makes, that they've actually recorded this sound using all of this equipment, and you can play the sound of Venus while you're doing a ritual to invoke that energy, to invoke the energy of Netzach or Venus. You could do the same thing with Saturn. You know, look these videos up on YouTube. They're really interesting. You know, you could look up Saturn and play the sound that Saturn makes in your temple while you are doing an invocation ritual to draw in Saturn. Somebody says, do you have a reference to work that talks about which notes corresponds to which spheres? I do not, because that is not my area of study. I am not a musician. I have no musical talent at all. Musically, I am a rock or a clod. So no, that is not an area of study that I've gone very deeply into, so I wouldn't know how to point you there. Somebody is asking about lucid dreams. They say, is lucid dreaming / dream relevant for piercing the veil of Paraketh or reaching the HGA? No. As a matter of fact, I don't really do anything with lucid dreaming at all. I used to, just because all of these different disciplines that are associated with magic, I wanted to at least have a little bit of an experience with as many of them as I possibly could, so that I would know what I was talking about, so that I would see what I was either getting or missing or whatever the case may be. And I did do lucid dreaming for a while. When I was in prison, to me, that seemed like an amazing escape route. You know, if you could control your dreams, and every time you go to sleep, you don't have to be in prison anymore. You can have all these amazing experiences that you can control while you're sleeping. Well, one of the things that I found was that the more I practiced lucid dreaming, the more I felt like I never really slept at night. You know, I would wake up, if I would do the techniques that would allow me to do lucid dreaming at night, the next day I would feel exhausted, like I hadn't really slept at all. I think whenever you practice lucid dreaming techniques, you are changing your brain pattern from what it would normally go into during a normal sleeping state into something else. And it's, for me at least, it wasn't nearly as restful. And the thing with lucid dreaming is a lot like astral projection. It's like if you're not doing it for a purpose, it's pretty boring. You know, again, it's not like the physical world. It's not like experiencing physical reality. Let me see. Is there any practice to help finding or understanding your Dharma? It's a good question too. And Dharma, for clarification, in magic the word Dharma, most people when they hear it, they automatically think it means the teachings of the Buddha. And that is one meaning of Dharma. Like, the Dharma is what the Buddha taught. They are the Buddhist canon of teachings. However, it also has other meanings. Like, one of the other meanings of Dharma means like your life's purpose, your will, what you are here to do. We believe that we came here for a purpose, to do something, and the more you dedicate and devote your life and your time and your energy to accomplishing what it is that you came here to do, the happier you are going to be as a human being, the happier you're going to be as a person. The more you are not doing your will, the further you get from doing your will, uh, the more miserable and unhappy you're going to be in life. A technique to know what your will is magic. You do magic so that you know what your will is. You know, just like you would do magic to manifest something, just like you would do magic to. Someone says, I think Dharma and depression are related. Absolutely. I think a lot of people are depressed because they're not doing their will. I think that's a huge, huge part of depression. I know what, and the reason I say that is because I'm speaking for myself personally. Anytime that I've felt depressed in life, it was because I wasn't moving towards fulfilling my will in some way. I had fallen into a state of stagnation, or, you know, something that was distracting me from doing my will. Let me see. Somebody says, many Vedic masters say that depression is the first step in the awakening process. I would agree with that also, absolutely. I think nobody wants to wake up until it's painful to stay unconscious. Once it becomes too painful to live in a state of unconsciousness anymore, you will start to take action. You will start to take steps towards finding a way to change your life. There's a, you know, anything new, anything worth having, any experience that causes growth is going to be out of your comfort zone. You cannot grow and stay in your comfort zone at the same time. You have to step outside of that. You know, it's like lifting weights. If you lift weights that don't hurt, that aren't heavy, that you don't have to strain, then you're not going to build muscle. It's usually when somebody hits rock bottom, that's whenever they realize, I've got to do something else with my life. I've got, and for me, that's when, you know, when I hit rock bottom, that was when I was sitting in a cell on death row. And I realized at that point, I've got to create some other kind of life for myself. And it forced me to start doing magic every single day. Someone says, do you have a powerful practice for charging sigils? You use the same technique no matter what you're doing. Whether you're charging a sigil, whether you're, you know, whatever it is you're trying to do, you're doing the exact same rituals. You're either doing pentagram invoking rituals with the accompanying angels, or hexagram rituals with the accompanying angels, or the deities, whatever it is. You're just pulling in energy that you put into whatever it is you're wanting to put it into, whether it's charging a sigil, or putting it into a glass of water, or sending it to a person on the other side of the world, whatever it is. I do the same ritual for whatever it is that I'm trying to accomplish. And that's what I've been trying to teach people through Patreon, is exactly what it is that I do, what ritual it is that I do, and how to, essentially these rituals, what you're doing is increasing the amount of power that you do. Like you start off learning the lesser invoking ritual of the pentagram. Once you've got that down, then you move up to doing the greater invoking ritual of the pentagram, because it brings in even more energy that you can direct into whatever. And if you need more energy than that, then you go up to the supreme invoking ritual of the pentagram. And if you need more energy than that, then you go up to the watchtower ritual, the Enochian watchtowers. They're all based on earth, air, fire, water. And it depends which one of these rituals you do, depends on how much energy you need, how much power do you need. In order to manifest whatever it is. You know, if you're wanting to manifest a good parking spot in a garage somewhere, it's not going to take nearly as much energy. Somebody says, can you cross the abyss with the aid of psychedelics? The reason I ask is because psychedelics do help in the expanding of consciousness as well. No, crossing the abyss is a very, very specific thing that doesn't happen. Um, that's all I'm going to say. Crossing the abyss is a very, very specific thing. Where would you recommend starting to communicate with angels? Is the Enochian system a good starting point? Honestly, when you're talking about angel invocations, I would say the Enochian stuff and the John D stuff are probably, honestly, the worst place to start, just because they're so dry and boring and hard to understand. There's a woman who put out a lot of books on angels, and I read them. I read every single one of them when I was in prison, and they had an amazing effect on me. They taught me so much. However, this woman went crazy. She eventually became a born again fundamentalist Christian, and she started renouncing all of her work. She changed her whole life. I mean, she really kind of went crazy. But this woman's name was Doreen Virtue, Doreenvirtue, and yes, that's actually her real name. She wrote a ton of books on angels, and I would suggest starting with things like she wrote one called Angel Medicine. She wrote one that is like an autobiography of her life, talking about how she started doing this work. Uh, I got a lot of stuff. I mean, here's the thing, it's written in a really, really new agey way. The covers are horrendous on these things. You know, she even did a bunch of decks, like oracle decks, that are like tarot cards, only they're angel decks instead of tarot decks. They're terrible. I wanted so bad to be a huge fan of what she was doing, just because her books had such an impact on my development. They made me understand things that I wanted to really like more of her stuff, but they are awful. I mean, the angels are, I mean, the cards they show, and I'm sorry, no, I don't like to shit talk people. I don't. I think that's one of the worst habits or traits in the world to take on. But I just mean, for me, I was so turned off by the artwork, just because it's all like, you know, unicorns, like literal unicorns. There's like, you know, uh, babies riding on unicorn backs and stuff like that. It just turned me off so much uh, that it made me not want to have anything to do with anything that she wrote. However, if you can get past that stuff, you know, even when you get these, but rip the cover off so that you don't have to look at the cover. Uh, don't let it turn you off to such a degree that you can't get the knowledge out of what she's doing. She doesn't, here's the thing, she didn't understand what angels were. Uh, she was using them in a very, very effective way. Effective as far as bringing about real physical change and whatnot. But she didn't understand the history or anything about thought forms or egregores or any of that stuff. So she put a lot of like, it's hard to describe. In some ways, they will really, really turn you off, but in other ways, they are amazingly effective teaching tools. So I would suggest, if you really want to start looking into angel stuff on that end of the spectrum, like stuff you can learn like this, like that is so fast. At manifest, I mean, the techniques that she gives and the angels that she describes to use to manifest things work insanely well. Uh, they were a huge part of what caused me to go so deeply into the study of angels. There's also other things, like, for example, Chick and Sandra Tabitha Cicero wrote a book called, it's something like Angel Talismans or something about talismans. That's all about about how every single card in the tarot deck can be used as a talisman for a different purpose, and every single card has a different angel, or actually it has two angels ascribed to all the minor arcana cards. Uh, that book, I've went through a lot of copies of that book as well. Also, once again, back to the Gallery of Magic. The Gallery of Magic wrote the 72 Angels of Magic. They wrote the Angels of Alchemy. They wrote the Angels of Love. They wrote a ton of really, really useful. What is this book? I'm not sure which book you're talking about. There's the Doreen Virtue books, and there's also the Chicken Sandra Tabitha Tarot Talismans, Invoke the Angels of Tarot. Thank you very much, The J Syndrome. That's the book that I was trying to think of and couldn't remember the name of. That was it. Can you give us an idea about more what your new book is about? I will. Maybe we'll even go through and read a little bit of it in the future once it's... Actually, you know what? Let me show you something very quickly. I just got these in a couple of days ago. This is what the book looks like. I just got to see it, just got to hold it for the very first time a couple of days ago. The cover, which I'm really happy with, this is the dust jacket. Whenever you take the dust jacket off, it has the Tree of Life in it. You'll notice my first book, High Magic, if you take the dust jacket off of it, there's a talisman that I designed, a talisman for overcoming obstacles, embossed in the front of it, the way the Tree of Life is here. And I like just how really subtle it is. You know, it's just all black. It doesn't really, I have to even tilt it a certain way so the light hits it so that you can see it. Let me see. I'll flip through and show you some of the, you know, they went with a really nice red and black. It's a really great look. But, you know, there's things in here you'll need to know that are covered in other books. There's essential rituals and intermediate modifications. And they did a really great job with the layout of it. You know, they broke out all these little boxes to highlight certain information. The tarot, where I talk about in this book the angels of the tarot. You know, and how, for example, just to read you the first one, the first one I come to, let's see, for example, here we have the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of swords, the 5 of swords, and it lists what the angel of the day and the angel of night are for that card. The angel of the day, and I'm going to cut this short, we're already over an hour. The angel of the day and the angel of the night, that is code in magic for how to visualize these angels. The angel of the day is the solar angel, the sun angel, which means male, masculine. The angel of the night is the feminine angel, the lunar angel, the angel of the moon. So you're talking about masculine and feminine angels. So when you hear the angel of the day and the angel of the night, it's telling you the angel of the day is visualized as masculine and male, you know, more masculine attributes. The angel of the night is visualized as more feminine. So once again, the union of opposites. You're bringing together masculine and feminine angelic energy to charge that particular tarot card with. And for whatever reason. So I'll just read you some things that some of them are for. Like, let's see, there's the 5 of Wands. It is to attain victory in a confrontation. And it gives you the angels' names. Angel of the day, angel of the night, all that. So those are in there. Major Arcana. The angels for those as well. And then the angels of the zodiacal signs, like this is Sagittarius, this is Scorpio. So this talisman here is for the angel of whatever this zodiacal sign is. This is the talisman for the angel of Scorpio. So you could use this for anything you wanted to use to invoke the angel of Scorpio for. You know, this one is the angel of Capricorn. So you can print this out. You can use this. You can draw this to use as a talisman. You don't have to create your own sigils. You can use one from in here. The other thing is it's also in audiobook. This is what the audiobook looks like. I'm not sure how many CDs are in here. I don't even have a CD player, so I haven't opened one of these and looked yet. Could be something else in there too. They may have put a book. Who knows what all they put in there? I should probably open one of these and look at it. But I did the reading on this. This is actually my voice that you'll hear going through these rituals and reading the book to you in here. You can get that on, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, whatever. Okay, guys, we've been going for over an hour now, and I don't want to overload you all at one time. Because this is actually really fun to me. I really love doing this, and I hope you guys love it as much as I do, or that you have as much fun as I do. I am going to open it. Okay, I'm going to open one and see what it looks like inside. Inside, it is a booklet of CDs. All of the CDs that contain me reading the entire book, and there's also this. Oh, very nice. It just breaks down the chapters and what they're all about and all that. Okay, guys, I'm going to stop this for now. I hope you have an amazing day. And remember what I said, I'm going to be super busy this week, just doing all the interviews and stuff about the book coming out, so I won't be on here quite as much as I would like to be. Bear with me, and good fun things are coming. If I didn't get to your question today, and I know there is a lot of questions going by that I'm not getting to, do not forget your questions. Keep a record of them and come back on here and we'll talk about it again next time, because there's a lot of really great ones on here. Okay, guys, my phone is about to go dead too, so that was perfect timing. I hope you guys have an amazing week, and I'll talk to you back here soon. Bye-bye.